For the purposes of this video, I'd like to introduce you to a headspace you may find uncomfortable. This is about hallucinations and perception of reality from the viewer's perspective, so if you're not up for that, it's perfectly fine. Skip ahead to this time code and I'll see you there. Okay, now, take a moment to check your surroundings. Something around you, right now, is not real. You have no idea what it is, nor do you have any way of identifying it. In fact, you're not entirely sure whether or not your instincts are right. But you've hallucinated before, haven't you? That it's a potential sensory experience for you at any moment has been well established. This makes the mundane appearance of your surroundings all the more disturbing because that potential exists. When you can no longer trust that your senses are giving you accurate information, how do you know that all the things around you are real? And how do you trust anything around you ever again? Hi, my name is Matt, and I want to talk about Prey by Arcane Studios, and a reality where you can trust neither your eyes nor your mind. To start things off, let's talk about hallucinations, or, more accurately, my experience with them. I'm mostly talking about visual hallucinations here, though make no mistake, auditory ones are equally disquieting. Look for a video on Hellblade in the future. Hallucinations are deeply unsettling because they trigger cognitive dissonance in the mind. I know the thing I'm seeing isn't real, but I'm looking right at it. The ocular signals being sent to my brain are in conflict with my grounding in reality. They don't look quite like this shot from Dead Space 2, but the effect is similar, and also the look is not as far off as you would hope. For example, I once saw in my rearview mirror a large, monstrous, dog-like thing with glowing eyes that moved independently from each other. I was terrified, but I slowed down the car and kept looking because I knew that it couldn't possibly be real. It was dusk while I was driving, and I was actually seeing the headlamps of two different bicyclists slightly up the hill from where I was. Fun fact, this happened before I was diagnosed, when I was still trying to make myself believe that I just had an overactive imagination. That's totally how imagination works, right? In Dead Space 2, it's obvious that this being isn't real because its appearance conflicts with the established reality of the game. The same is true for my monster dog encounter, or that time I saw a human-shaped outline standing in my yard in broad daylight. I know they aren't real because they conflict with my understanding of reality, but I can still see them. But recently, a thought occurred to me, and it's a sticky bastard that I can't seem to shake. What if I'm hallucinating something, and my brain hasn't registered it as unreal? If true, this would constitute a serious problem for my mental health with some unsettling implications for my aforementioned understanding of reality. Now, there are no monster dogs on my desk, just a mess that I'm totally going to clean up at some point. Any day now, I swear. The trouble is that there's no good way for me to prove whether or not any of the things around me are real or not. And though I don't typically hallucinate mundane objects, there is precedent. Well, maybe there is. Story time again. When I was a teenager, I came home from a long day at work. On the landing was a mirror under which I would hang my jacket. As I shut the door, I saw a big cockroach run along my arm and across my shoulders. Naturally, I freaked out. I started shaking my jacket off and looking around. I couldn't find the roach anywhere around me. I didn't hear it fall on the floor, and it wasn't still on my jacket. I looked everywhere for the thing and turned up nothing. The only place I saw it was in the reflection of the mirror. To this day, I don't know if it was there or not. At the time, I filed it away as imagination. But when I learned that my imaginings were actually hallucinations, I started re-questioning that event. If the roach was real, then fine, whatever, I can go about my day. But if it wasn't, then hallucinating mundane things is a potential for me. And since I have no way of verifying its authenticity, I'm in a Schrodinger's roach dilemma, and I can't collapse the wave function, as it were.
Matt, what does any of this have to do with the sci-fi game Prey? It's not about mental illness.
Addiction!
Or is it? I don't actually know. I haven't finished it yet. Please, no spoilers in the comments. Whether it is or not, Prey doesn't need to literally be about mental illness because it's still useful for illustrating my headspace and the paranoia that comes with it. Because of these critters. They're called mimics, and like their namesake from the fantasy genre, they can reform themselves to appear as mundane and familiar objects within their respective worlds. Only these mimics have expanded their repertoire beyond that of the treasure chest. They can look like basically anything. The mimics of Talos 1 can and do take the appearance of various mundane objects scattered around the station. They hide in plain sight, disguising themselves as coffee cups and clipboards and the like. You can see one skitter into a room, and when you follow it, you're met with a formerly lived-in room that looks like any other, with mundane items scattered about. Which brings us back to this scene from the start of the video. Can you spot the mimic here? Is a mimic even on this table? How do you know one way or another? Prey puts the player in a headspace where they cannot trust what their eyes are telling them. The intro primes the player for this mindset, presenting them a reality, then revealing it as a facade.
Good. You're in the simulation lab. Now get to the exit. I'll keep in contact.
The game uses its opening minutes to tell you that you cannot and should not trust what you see. I don't believe that any other medium, including tabletop role-playing games, could mimic this experience. The visual, auditory, and interactive nature of moving through this space and watching my perceptions warp right in front of me is something that only a video game can do. Because video games can have the player move through a virtual space that feels real, and designers can twist that space in interesting ways. This provides boundless opportunities to explore mental illness and how we perceive reality. Games can explore mental landscapes by combining a character's perception and the physical space they occupy, creating worlds that are both literal and projection, allowing you to explore that world and the protagonist's headspace simultaneously. I kinda touched on this in my Dark Souls 2 video. The Mimics of Prey accomplish this from a science fiction direction, instead of blending the physical space with the protagonist's perception of it. At least as far as I know. Intended or otherwise, Arcane made a game that allows me to explore this unsettling headspace from the safe distance of interactive fiction, and I commend them for it. Ever since the thought I posited at the beginning of this video popped into my head, I haven't been able to shake it. Like the cockroach, it's a dissonance I cannot resolve. So, I asked the title question of this video: how do you trust reality? I used to approach this question from a "it would be scary if" perspective when I watched The Matrix, or that episode of Stargate SG1 where there were invisible aliens in the SGC. Once a person sees a glitch or a hostile lifeform decloak right in front of them, how do they trust their senses ever again? They obviously aren't getting accurate or enough information to navigate reality, so how do they not live in constant fear that the things around them aren't what they appear? That line of thinking should have been a clear indicator to me that my issues with paranoia ran deep, and I should have sought help a long time before I finally did. It's frustrating looking back at past me and wanting to just drag myself to the nearest credible mental health professional, and maybe go ahead and tell myself I'm non-binary so I don't spend my entire 20s wondering why I don't seem to fit anywhere. Oh well. I wanted to end this video on a more positive note, or with something actionable I can do to find some answers, but I don't really have anything to that end. The question of this video doesn't really have an answer, not that I can find anyway. The best I can do right now is toss the question and its context into the world on the off chance that it helps someone else feel like they aren't alone. So if you too are having these troubling thoughts, I see you, and I'm right there with you.
Good morning, Morgan. Today is Monday, March 15th, 2032.
Thank you so much for watching this video. I'm sorry it took so long. I've been going through some stuff in my personal life which has left me creatively drained, but I'm slowly getting back on top of things. I would like to thank SulMatul for the lovely voice bit she did for me. She recently did a massive deep dive into the themes of KOTOR 2, which you should go watch if you haven't already. I'd like to thank Playhead North for introducing me to the Phoenix Wright editor. I certainly won't use this knowledge for evil. And I'd like to thank RagnarRox for showing me how to turn a GIF into an MP4. I'll include links to their channels in the video description. Also, I want to thank Quiet Force for giving me some great advice with the title card. I'll link her Twitter in the description as well. If you'd like to see more of my work, I have more videos on this channel here, and a playlist for the video essays. I'm also a writer of short fantasy and space opera stories, and I host them for free on itch.io with an option to donate. If you'd like to support me directly, I have a Kofi page. If you can drop me a couple dollars, it would help me out a lot. I hope you enjoyed this video, and have a lovely day.